Jake Harrison sat in the cold metal chair and looked across the table at 7 pairs of alien eyes that showed nothing but contempt. The meeting room aboard the massive Galactic Council station felt like a tomb, with its dark walls and dim lighting that hurt human eyes. Outside the thick windows, the gas giant Kepler 442b spun slowly in space, its storms creating patterns that reminded Jake of angry faces. Chancellor Zexthal, the reptilian leader of the Vorthic Empire, leaned forward on his 4 arms and spoke in the Universal Translator's flat voice. Human Ambassador Harrison, your species has exactly 3 standard days to comply with our demands or face complete destruction. Jake kept his face calm even though his heart was beating fast. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 5 years, and he had never seen them this angry before. The 7 species that controlled most of the galaxy were all staring at him like he was some kind of dangerous animal that needed to be put down. What exactly are you demanding, Chancellor? Jake asked, though he already knew the answer would be terrible. Total surrender of all human military forces, said the insectoid Queen Veltar, her voice buzzing through the translator. Complete dismantling of your space-based weapon systems. Full submission to Galactic Council oversight of all human worlds and colonies. The floating gas being called Mordith added its thoughts through a series of color changes that the translator turned into words. Your species expands too quickly and refuses to share your technologies. This makes other civilizations nervous. Jake almost laughed at that. Earth had been in space for less than 300 years, while these species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Human technology was primitive compared to what the Council species possessed, or at least that was what everyone believed. We have committed no crimes against any Council member, Jake said carefully. Our colonies are peaceful. We trade fairly with all species. Your military grows stronger each year, hissed Chancellor Zexthal. Your ships use weapon designs we have never seen before. Your soldiers fight with a fury that frightens even our veteran warriors. We cannot allow this threat to continue. Behind the official words, Jake could hear the real truth. The Council was afraid because humanity refused to bow down and accept a lower position in galactic society. Other young species had been content to serve the older, more powerful civilizations, but humans wanted to be equals. This scared the Council members who had ruled the galaxy for so long. Jake reached under the table and pressed a small button hidden on his belt. The quantum beacon would send an emergency signal back to Earth instantly, faster than any normal communication could travel. President Lisa Martinez would know within seconds that diplomacy had failed. 3 days, repeated Chancellor Zexthal. After that, our combined fleets will move toward Earth. Any human military vessel that tries to resist will be destroyed. Any human colony that refuses to surrender will be bombarded from orbit. This is not a negotiation, Ambassador. This is your final warning. The 7 Council members stood up and began to leave the room. Jake remained sitting, watching them go. Queen Veltar paused at the door and looked back at him with her compound eyes. Your species should have remained on your little blue world, she said. The galaxy is not meant for creatures like you. When Jake was alone, he activated his secure communicator and called his assistant, Carol Wright, who was waiting on the human section of the station. Carol, pack everything. We leave in 1 hour. Sir, did the meeting go badly? Carol asked, though she could probably guess from his tone. Worse than badly. Contact Captain Murphy and tell him to prepare the ship for immediate departure. And Carol, send a priority message to Director Rodriguez at the agency. Tell her the Council just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. Back on Earth, President Lisa Martinez was in the middle of a budget meeting when her secure phone buzzed with an emergency tone she had only heard during drills. She excused herself from the meeting and walked quickly to her private office, where General Pete Collins was already waiting with a grim expression. The beacon activated 20 minutes ago, General Collins said. Jake's in trouble. President. Martinez sat behind her desk and opened the classified folder that she hoped she would never need to read. Inside were documents that only 12 people on Earth knew existed, plans that could save humanity or destroy the entire galaxy. How long do we have? She asked. Based on our intelligence about Council fleet movements, probably 72 hours. Before they reach Earth's outer defenses, General Collins replied. But Lisa, they don't know what they're walking into. The president picked up a red phone that connected directly to a facility buried deep under the Colorado mountains. Dr. Alex Chun answered on the first ring. Dr. Chun, this is the president. Authorization code Omega 77. Begin preliminary activation of the Prometheus project. Understood, Madam President. How far do you want us to go with the preparations? President Martinez looked out the window at the peaceful Washington skyline and thought about her two children playing somewhere in the White House. All the way, Doctor. If the Council wants a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. 3,000 miles away, in a facility that officially did not exist, Dr. Alex Chen walked through corridors carved from solid rock toward a chamber that contained humanity's greatest secret and most terrible weapon. Ancient machines that had been waiting for millions of years began to wake up, and deep in the earth, something that the Galactic Council could not imagine or understand, started to prepare for war. The Council thought they were dealing with a young, weak species that would surrender when faced with overwhelming force. They had no idea that they had just threatened the descendants of the galaxy's original rulers, sleeping gods who had been waiting for exactly this moment to reclaim their inheritance and show the universe who really controlled the stars. Dr. Alex Chen walked through the metal corridors deep beneath the Colorado mountains, her footsteps echoing in the silence. The facility around her was a mixture of human construction and something far older, something that should not have existed. On Earth, ancient walls made of materials that human science could barely understand rose up beside modern concrete and steel, creating a strange hybrid that reminded everyone who worked here that humanity was not alone in the universe and never had been. 50 years ago, mining crews working on Titan had broken through into a chamber that changed everything. Humans thought they knew about themselves. The workers had been digging for ice when their equipment detected a massive hollow space beneath the surface. When they cut through the final layer of rock, they found corridors and rooms that stretched for miles underground, filled with technology. That seemed like magic, but the most shocking discovery was not the advanced machines or the power sources that still worked after millions of years. It was the message they found carved into the central chamber wall in perfect English, even though English had only existed on Earth for a few centuries. The words were simple but terrifying. For our children, when the stars turn against them. Dr. Chen reached the main laboratory where her team was already working. Dr. Maria Santos looked up from her computer screen with tired eyes. She had been studying the alien text for 3 days straight, trying to understand what their ancestors had left for them. Any progress on the translation protocols? Dr. Chun asked. More than we expected, Dr. Maria replied. The language systems are incredibly advanced, but they're designed to be understood by human minds. It's like they knew exactly how our brains would develop over millions of years. Across the room, Dr. Kevin Walsh was running tests on a piece of technology that looked like a small crystal but contained more computing power than every computer on Earth combined. Alex, you need to see this, he said. I've been analyzing the memory cores we found, and the story they tell is incredible. Dr. Chun walked over to Kevin's workstation where holographic displays showed star maps and historical data that went back millions of years. What did you find? We're not from Earth, Kevin said quietly. Humans evolved somewhere else, in a solar system that was destroyed in a galactic war so long ago that even the Council species don't remember it. Our ancestors were refugees who came here to hide. The holographic display showed images of human-like beings fleeing from massive space battles, their ships carrying not just people but entire genetic libraries and technological databases. They had found Earth when it was young and empty, and they had seeded it with life that would eventually become modern humans. But why did they hide the technology? Dr. Chen asked. Dr. Maria Santos pulled up another set of files. Because they were being hunted. The war they were fleeing from wasn't over, it was just sleeping. They hid their memories and their technology to protect us until we were strong enough to defend ourselves. The truth was almost too big to understand. Humans were not a young species just beginning to explore space. They were the descendants of an ancient civilization that had once ruled much of the galaxy before being forced into hiding. All of human history, from the first cave paintings to the space age, had been preparation for the day when they would need to reclaim their birthright. President Martinez arrived at the facility that evening with a small team of advisors including Secretary of Defense Bill Carter and CIA Director Helen Rodriguez. The three of them had security clearances high enough to know about the Prometheus project, but even they were not prepared for what Dr. Chun showed them. "How long have we known about this?" President Martinez asked as she looked at images of ancient human civilizations that had built cities among the stars. "The first discoveries were classified immediately," Director Rodriguez replied. "Only presidents and a handful of military leaders have been told the truth. We've been preparing for this day for 50 years. Secretary Carter studied the technical specifications for weapons that could destroy entire fleets with a single shot. These systems, can we actually build them?" "We don't have to build them," Dr. Chun said. "They're already built, hidden throughout our solar system and beyond, waiting for the activation codes. Our ancestors left us an entire military infrastructure that the Council has never detected." The president looked at the star maps showing hidden human bases and weapon platforms scattered across dozens of systems. "How many people know about this?" "Counting everyone in this room, exactly 12 people on Earth," Dr. Chun replied. "And about 300 more in the hidden colonies and research stations that the Council thinks are just mining operations." What the Galactic Council saw as human expansion and colonization was actually the awakening of an ancient network. Every human settlement in space was built on sites where their ancestors had left hidden technology. Every trading post and research station was connected to weapons, systems that could rewrite the laws of physics in localized areas of space. Dr. Kevin Walsh brought up the most important file of all. "This is the Annihilation Protocol. It's not just a weapon, it's a complete system for galactic warfare. When activated, it gives us control over fundamental forces that other species don't even know exist." The display showed simulations of what would happen if the protocol was fully activated. Stars could be moved from their orbits. Gravity could be reversed on enemy worlds. The speed of light could be changed in specific regions, trapping enemy fleets forever. It was power that godlike beings would envy. "There has to be a cost," President Martinez said. "This kind of power always comes with a price." Dr. Maria Santos nodded grimly. "The price is us. Using the protocol will change humanity forever. We'll become something beyond what we are now, something that might not be entirely human anymore." General Collins, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. "Up. The Council is bringing 10,000 ships to destroy Earth. Without the protocol, we lose everything. With it, we become something else. Is there really a choice?" President Martinez looked around the ancient chamber with its hybrid of human and alien technology. Somewhere above them, normal humans were living their normal lives, unaware that their entire species was about to face extinction or transformation. The decision she made in the next few hours would determine not just the future of humanity, but the fate of the entire galaxy. "Begin full activation procedures," she said quietly. "If the Council wants to see what humans are really capable of, we'll show them exactly what they've awakened." Chancellor Zextel stood before the assembled representatives of 43 galactic civilizations in the Council's great chamber. His reptilian features showed satisfaction as he announced what he believed would be humanity's final defeat. The massive holographic display behind him showed the human solar system with countdown timers marking exactly when their ultimatum would expire. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Chancellor Zextel began, his voice carrying across the chamber through thousands of translation devices. "The human threat will end in exactly 6 hours and 23 minutes. Admiral Karzan of the Hegemony Navy has assembled the largest fleet in galactic history to ensure these dangerous primitives are completely eliminated. The alien representatives cheered and made their species-specific sounds of approval. The floating jellyfish-like beings pulsed with bright colors. The crystalline rock creatures rang like bells, and the machine intelligences broadcast electronic victory songs. For too long, they had watched humans expand across space with growing concern. Now that concern would be eliminated forever. Admiral Karzan appeared on the communication screen from his flagship, the massive dreadnought called Galaxy's Wrath. Behind him, the bridge crew of his ship worked at stations that controlled weapons capable of cracking planets in half. His 4 eyes gleamed with anticipation as he spoke. "Chancellor, my fleet of 10,000 ships is moving into position around the human home system. Their pathetic defenses will not last more than a few hours. By tomorrow, Earth will be nothing but space dust, and the human problem will be solved permanently." The Admiral had every reason to be confident. His fleet contained the most advanced warships from 7 different species, each one armed with weapons that could destroy cities with single shots. The humans had maybe a few hundred ships scattered across their colonies. Primitive vessels that used chemical rockets and basic energy weapons. It would not be a battle, it would be extermination on Earth. President Martinez stood in the Oval Office, looking out at the peaceful morning sky. In a few hours, that sky would be filled with alien warships, and humanity would face its greatest test. She had spent the night reading classified reports and making the hardest decisions any human leader had ever faced. General Collins entered the office with the latest updates from their hidden military bases. "Madam President, all of our secret fleets are in position. Captain Steve Rogers reports that the Valkyrie battle group is ready to engage. Our stealth satellites throughout the solar system have powered up successfully." The president turned from the window. "And the Prometheus protocol?" Dr. Chun confirms that the first phase is fully activated. The ancient systems have been dormant for millions of years, but they're responding perfectly to the activation codes. What Admiral Karzan and the Council did not know was that humanity had been preparing for this war for 50 years. Every major nation on Earth had contributed resources to building a secret space fleet using technology found in the ancient ruins. These ships did not appear on any public records, and they had been hidden in asteroid fields and dead planets where alien sensors could not detect them. Captain Steve Rogers stood on the bridge of the battleship Valkyrie, looking at displays that showed the approaching alien fleet. His ship was built using a combination of human engineering and ancient technology that created something the galaxy had never seen before. The hull was made of materials that could phase in and out of normal space, making it nearly invisible to enemy sensors. "Sir, we're detecting the first wave of alien ships entering the outer system," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from her sensor station. "Count is over 3,000 vessels, with more coming through the jump points every minute." Captain Rogers nodded calmly. "Signal all ships in the battle group. Activate cloaking systems and move to intercept positions. It's time to show these aliens what humans are really capable of." The Valkyrie and her sister ships disappeared from normal space, becoming ghosts that could strike without warning. Their weapons were based on principles that alien science did not understand. Devices that could attack enemy ships at the quantum level, bypassing shields and armor completely. Admiral Karzan watched his fleet's progress with growing excitement. His sensors showed the human solar system ahead, with the blue-white planet Earth spinning peacefully in space. There were no human ships visible, which meant the primitive humans were either hiding or had already fled in terror. "Admiral, we're in position to begin the bombardment," reported his weapons officer. "All ships are ready to fire on your command." "Excellent," Admiral Karzan replied. "Begin with their military installations and space stations. Once those are destroyed, we'll crack the planet itself." But as the alien fleet moved closer to Earth, something impossible happened. Ships began appearing out of nowhere, materializing from empty space like ghosts becoming solid. These were not the primitive human vessels the aliens expected. They were sleek, deadly craft that seemed to bend light around them, making them Hard to see even when they were right in front of you. Captain Rogers opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. Attention alien vessels. This is Captain Steve Rogers of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered human space with hostile intent. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Karzan laughed when he heard the transmission. 1. Human ship threatens our entire fleet. Fire all weapons. Destroy that arrogant fool immediately. Thousands of alien weapons fired at once, creating a light show that could be seen from planets away. Energy beams and missile swarms converged on the Valkyrie's position, enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But when the light faded, the human ship was still there, completely undamaged. Impossible, Admiral Karzan whispered. No ship can survive that much concentrated fire. Captain Rogers' voice came through the communication system again, but now it sounded different, older, and more dangerous. You have made a grave mistake, Admiral. You thought you were fighting primitives, but you have awakened something far more ancient and powerful than your species can imagine. The human ships began their attack, and Admiral Karzan watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by weapons that should not exist. Human vessels phased through solid matter to attack from inside enemy ships. Their energy beams ignored shields and armor, striking directly at the molecular level to dissolve alien hulls like acid. Within 2 hours, Admiral Karzan's fleet of 10,000 ships was reduced to less than 200 survivors fleeing in panic toward the edge of the system. The most powerful military force in galactic history had been completely destroyed by a few dozen human vessels that fought like they were controlled by gods rather than mortals. The survivors who escaped carried terrible news back to the Council. Humanity was not a young, weak species struggling to survive in a hostile galaxy. They were something far more dangerous, something that had been hiding its true power until the moment when patience was no longer possible. The great chamber of the Galactic Council had never seen chaos like this before. Representatives from 43 different species were screaming, clicking, buzzing, and flashing their panic in dozens of different ways as reports came in from the survivors of Admiral Karzan's fleet. Chancellor Zexthal tried to maintain order, but his own hands were shaking as he read the battle reports that made no sense. "This is impossible," Queen Veltar buzzed frantically, her insect wings beating so fast they created a high-pitched whine. "Our intelligence report said humans had primitive technology, chemical rockets and basic energy weapons. How did they destroy 10,000 of our best warships?" The floating gas being Mordith pulsed with colors that the translators could barely keep up with. The survivors speak of human ships that phase through solid matter, weapons that ignore our strongest shields, and defensive systems that make their vessels nearly invulnerable. This cannot be true. Chancellor Zexthal slammed his clawed fist on the council table. "I want answers from our intelligence services immediately. How did we miss military technology this advanced? How long have the humans been hiding their true capabilities?" But the intelligence officers had no answers to give. For centuries, they had monitored human development and seen exactly what they expected to see. A young species slowly learning to build rockets and explore their local solar system. Every human world they had observed showed signs of primitive technology and peaceful agricultural development. What they did not know was that humanity had been playing a game far more complex than they could imagine. Every human colony, every trading post, every research station had been built on sites where ancient human technology lay hidden beneath the surface. The aliens had been watching a carefully constructed illusion while the real human civilization prepared for war. Jake Harrison sat in his cell aboard the council station, listening to the panic spreading through the alien corridors outside. The guards who had arrested him after the fleet's defeat were too distracted by the emergency to pay much attention to their prisoner, which gave Jake the opportunity he needed to activate his quantum communication implant. The device was so small and advanced that alien scanners could not detect it. It used principles of quantum entanglement that allowed instant communication across any distance, connecting Jake directly to Earth's command centers. He whispered his report into the seemingly empty air, knowing that President Martinez would Receive every word. The council is in complete panic, Jake reported. They're calling emergency sessions and demanding explanations that their intelligence services cannot provide. Some species are already talking about surrender, while others want to continue the war using more extreme measures. Back on Earth, President Martinez listened to Jake's report while standing in the Situation Room. Deep beneath the White House, the walls were covered with displays showing human military positions across the galaxy, and for the first time in months, she allowed herself to smile. Dr. Chun, what's the status of the Prometheus Protocol's second phase? She asked. Dr. Chun's voice came through the secure communication system from the underground facility in Colorado. All ancient systems are fully operational, Madam President. We've discovered something incredible in the deeper levels of the facility. It's not just a weapons cache, it's a complete civilization management system. The President raised her eyebrows. What do you mean? Our ancestors didn't just leave us weapons and technology. They left us the tools to rebuild and govern a galactic empire. Star maps showing every habitable world, genetic templates for creating new forms of life, and most importantly, the location of other hidden facilities on worlds throughout the galaxy. General Collins pointed to a tactical display showing human positions across known space. Madam President, we're receiving activation signals from hidden bases that we didn't even know existed. It appears our ancestors prepared for this day far more thoroughly than we realized. What the general was seeing was the awakening of humanity's true inheritance. On worlds that the Council believed were simple mining colonies, massive underground complexes were coming online. Ancient factories began producing ships and weapons using technology that made the Council's best equipment look like stone tools. Captain Steve Rogers stood on the bridge of the Valkyrie as his fleet prepared for the second phase of humanity's expansion. His ship had been upgraded with new systems that the ancient computers had unlocked after analyzing the battle data from the first engagement. Now his vessels could do things that violated everything the galaxy thought it knew about physics. Captain, we're receiving movement orders from Earth Command, reported Lieutenant Amy Foster. We're to proceed to the Vega system and activate the hidden facility there. Understood, Captain Rogers replied. Signal the fleet. Time to show the galaxy that humanity has been playing a much longer game than anyone suspected. The human ships vanished from normal space, not by moving faster than light, but by stepping outside of space-time itself and reappearing instantly at their destination. When they materialized in the Vega system, ancient sensors detected their presence and began awakening technology that had been sleeping for millions of years, but the most shocking change was happening to the humans themselves. The stress of combat and exposure to ancient technology was triggering genetic modifications that their ancestors had built into human DNA. Pilots found they could navigate hyperspace without computers, using instincts that seemed to come from nowhere. Soldiers discovered they could survive in hard vacuum for hours and repair complex equipment by touch alone. General Collins coordinated the global response from his command center in the Pentagon. His secure communications were linking up with other human commanders on worlds the Council had never discovered, revealing a network of hidden colonies that had been preparing for this moment for decades. Sir, we're getting reports from Captain Linda Hayes in the Alpha Centauri system, his aide reported. The hidden base there has activated successfully, and they're beginning production of Type 7 battle platforms. And Commander Gary Miller. In the Tau Ceti system, his stealth fleet is moving to intercept Council reinforcements. He reports that the ancient technology is integrating with their ships perfectly, giving them capabilities that our best scientists are still trying to understand. The Council had made the fatal mistake of believing they were fighting a primitive species that had gotten lucky in one battle. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant that had been preparing for galactic war since before their own civilizations existed. Humanity was not expanding into space. They were returning home to reclaim an empire that had always been theirs. As reports came in from across the galaxy, it became clear that the ancient humans had planned for this moment with incredible precision. Every human settlement was revealing hidden defenses, Every trading route was actually a military supply line, and every peaceful colonist was a sleeping warrior who remembered skills that had been buried in their genetic code for millions of years. The galaxy was about to learn that when you push humanity too far, you do not get a war. You get the awakening of gods who had been pretending to be mortals, and those gods are not known for their mercy toward species foolish enough to threaten their children. Chancellor Zexthal stood before the emergency assembly of the Galactic Council with desperation in his 4 eyes. The reports from across the galaxy painted a picture that no one wanted to believe. Humanity was not just winning the war. They were rewriting the rules of warfare itself. Traditional tactics meant nothing against an enemy that could step outside of normal space-time and strike from dimensions that alien science did not even know existed. Fellow representatives, Chancellor Zexthal announced, his voice shaking with barely controlled fear, we face extinction unless we act immediately. I'm calling for a vote to deploy planet-killer weapons against Earth itself. If we destroy their homeworld, perhaps we can end this nightmare before humanity completes whatever transformation they are undergoing. The vote was swift and desperate. 41 species voted in favor, with only 2 abstaining. Within hours, a new fleet was assembled, carrying weapons designed to crack planets apart and boil away their atmospheres. This would be the Council's final gamble, their last chance to stop humanity before the ancient power fully awakened. President Martinez received the intelligence report about the planet-killer fleet while standing in the Oval Office at dawn. Secretary of Defense Bill Carter handed her the classified briefing with hands that trembled slightly, and she could see the fear in his eyes as she read the details. How long do we have? She asked. 18 hours before they reach optimal firing position, General Collins replied from his position near the situation displays. Madam President, these are not conventional weapons. They use technology that can destabilize a planet's core and turn Earth into a second sun. The President looked out the window at the Washington morning, watching normal people start their daily routines without knowing that their world was about to end or be transformed forever. Children were walking to school, office workers were heading to their jobs, and somewhere in the city, her own family was probably having breakfast. Dr. Chun, she said into her secure communicator. This is the President. Authorization code Omega 99, full activation of the Annihilation protocol. We're out of time and out of choices. 3,000 miles away, Dr. Alex Chun stood in the deepest chamber of the ancient facility as machines that had waited for millions of years began their final startup sequence. The walls around her were covered with displays showing energy readings that climbed beyond anything human science had ever recorded. The facility was drawing power from sources that existed outside normal spacetime, tapping into the fundamental forces that held the universe together. Maria, Kevin, everyone needs to evacuate to the surface immediately, Dr. Chun ordered her team. Once this process begins, the facility will become too dangerous for unprotected humans. Dr. Maria Santos looked up from her workstation with tears in her eyes. Alex, the simulations show that activating the protocol at full power will change the physical laws of the entire galaxy. Are we sure we want to do this? The Council is coming to kill everyone we've ever loved, Dr. Chun replied. If we don't activate the protocol, humanity dies. If we do activate it, we become something beyond human. The choice is extinction or evolution. The Annihilation protocol was not just a weapon, it was a complete system for remaking reality itself. Ancient human scientists had discovered how to manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe, allowing them to change gravity, alter the speed of light, and rewrite the laws of physics in localized areas of space. It was power that made their bearers into gods, but it came with a price that would change humanity forever. Jake Harrison felt the change beginning as he sat in his cell aboard the Council station. The quantum communicator in his brain was picking up signals from Earth that carried more than just information. They carried fragments of the ancient power that was awakening, and his human DNA was responding to that power in ways that terrified and amazed him. He could see through the station's walls now, perceiving the alien technology around him as clearly as if it were made of glass. His thoughts were moving faster than they had ever moved before, and he understood concepts about space and time that no human should have been able to grasp. The transformation had begun, and there was no way to stop it. "Guards," he called out. And when they arrived, he spoke to them in their own languages without the aid of translation devices. "You should surrender now, while surrender is still possible." The alien guards backed away from his cell in terror. Jake's eyes were glowing, with light that seemed to come from inside his skull, and the metal bars of his prison were beginning to bend without him touching them. Whatever humanity was becoming, it was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Steve Rogers received the surrender of the Council fleet from his position aboard the Valkyrie, which now existed simultaneously in normal space in several parallel dimensions. The alien ships hung motionless around Earth like broken toys, their crews too terrified to move as they finally understood what they had awakened. Jake Harrison walked free from his cell as the Council Station systems completely shut down in the presence of human power. The alien representatives who had threatened his species with extinction now cowered before him, begging for mercy from beings they had dismissed as primitives only days before. The transformation was complete across the galaxy. Every human world revealed itself as a node in an ancient network of power that spanned known space and beyond. The mining colonies became fortress worlds, the trading posts became command centers, and the peaceful farmers became the awakened descendants of the galaxy's original gods. Dr. Chun stood in the control chamber that now extended far beyond the Colorado facility, its systems reaching into dimensions that alien science could not perceive. She could see every star system, every planet, every ship in the galaxy, and with a thought, she could alter any of them according to humanity's will. The Council species that had ruled for millennia found their homeworlds changed overnight. Those who submitted peacefully discovered that human rule was far more benevolent than their own had been. Those who resisted found their planets relocated to the edges of the galaxy, far from the important trade routes and resources they had once controlled. President Martinez addressed the galaxy from the White House. Her words carried instantly to every inhabited world through systems that bypassed all known forms of communication. She spoke not just as the leader of Earth, but as the voice of humanity's awakened consciousness. For too long, the younger species of this galaxy have lived under the rule of those who claimed authority through age and military might, she said, her voice reaching alien minds directly without need for translation. That age is ending. Humanity returns not as conquerors, but as the rightful inheritors of a legacy that was always ours. The galaxy would never be the same. Humans had revealed themselves not as an upstart species threatening the established order, but as sleeping gods returning to reclaim their inheritance. The Council's ultimatum had not destroyed humanity. It had awakened something far more ancient and powerful than they could have imagined, and in the depths of space, ancient machines continued their work, preparing for the next phase of human expansion beyond the boundaries of the known galaxy, toward distant stars where other sleeping children might be waiting for their turn to wake up and remember who they really were. Rogers stood on the bridge of the Valkyrie as the final phase of the protocol activated throughout human space. His ship was transforming around him, its hull becoming something that existed partially outside normal reality. The crew was changing too, their enhanced genetics finally expressing the full potential that their ancestors had built into human DNA. "Captain, we're receiving new orders from Earth Command," Lieutenant Amy Foster reported, but her voice sounded different now, deeper and more resonant. "All human forces are to begin Phase 5 operations immediately." Captain Rogers nodded, understanding the orders without needing to read them. Phase 5 was the reclamation of humanity's galactic inheritance. The moment when they would stop pretending to be a young species and reveal themselves as the galaxy's rightful rulers. The protocol activated simultaneously across thousands of star systems, and the effects were immediate and terrifying. On the Council homeworlds, gravity began flowing upward instead of down. In key military systems, the speed of light changed, trapping enemy fleets in hyperspace forever. Fundamental constants that had governed the universe since its creation began to alter according to humanity's will. Chancellor Zexthel watched from his command ship as his planet-killer fleet approached Earth, but something was wrong with the readings his sensors were giving him. The human homeworld was still there, still blue and green and apparently defenseless, but the space around it was behaving in ways that made no sense. Admiral, we're detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system, his science officer reported. The laws of physics appear to be breaking down. Impossible, Chancellor Zexthel hissed. Physics cannot be changed. Natural laws are absolute. But as his fleet moved closer to Earth, the truth became undeniable. Spacetime itself was bending to humanity's will, and the planet that had seemed so vulnerable was revealing itself as the control center for forces that could reshape reality itself.